you're not actually an irritable person, but lately you're showing up like one. And it's not because of what's happening around you. It's because of what you haven't put down. You're not an irritable person just because you get irritated, but you definitely get there faster than before. You see, before, small things didn't bother you. You had patience, you had space. But lately, it's different. It's not the size of the moment. It's that it lands on top of everything else you're already holding. And instead of responding, you feel it stack. And the immediate story you tell yourself is, I'm just more irritable lately. I need to be more patient. I need to get my attitude right. But what if that's not actually the problem? What if irritability isn't about anger at all? What if it's a sign? Because most men don't realize this. Irritability is rarely about what's happening in front of you. It's about what's already running underneath you. Every unfinished decision, every conversation you've been avoiding, every outcome you feel responsible for, every situation you're trying to manage from a distance. It doesn't disappear when you move on. It follows you. So by the time something small shows up, it's not small anymore. It lands on top of everything else you've been carrying quietly in the background. And your system doesn't separate it. It just stacks right on top of it, which means your reaction in the moment is never just about that specific moment. It's about the accumulation. Think about it like your mind having 25 tabs open in your browser, not crashing, not frozen, still functioning and working, but slower than it should be, hotter than it should be. And every new tab that you continue to open just feels like too much. So when something small gets added, you don't respond to that one tab. You feel all 25 tabs. And then there's something else most men don't notice. You don't actually process what you're carrying. You override it because you've trained yourself to do that. You feel something and just move past it. You notice the pressure, and guess what? You just stay productive. You sense you're stretched and you tell yourself, just handle this thing. And over time, that becomes your normal. That becomes your baseline. Not because nothing is happening, but because nothing is getting processed. So it doesn't leave. It just lingers in your body, in your attention, in the background of everything you're doing. And eventually, your system stops resetting itself. It just stays slightly on. Not stressed enough to break, but not settled enough to feel clear. And that's where irritability begins. Not as anger, but as depletion. Because when your system is carrying more than it can process, you lose margin. And when you lose margin, everything feels heavier than it actually is. That comment shouldn't bother you, but guess what? It does. That question isn't a big deal, but it feels like one. That small inconvenience feels like pressure instead of neutral. You're not reacting to the specific moment. You're reacting from overload. And once you see that, something starts to make sense. Capacity shapes your response, not your intention, not your character, not your discipline. Capacity. When you have capacity, you can absorb stress without reacting. You can lead conversations without tension. You can stay steady under pressure. But when capacity drops, even the smallest things feel like threats. And here's where things become dangerous. Most men try to fix irritability at the surface. They try to be more patient, try to be more controlled, try to be more disciplined. But that's like trying to calm waves without addressing the storm underneath it. Irritability isn't a behavior problem. It's a load management problem. And the real question isn't, why am I reacting like this? The real question is, what am I carrying right now that hasn't been processed? This is where most men get honest and uncomfortable. Because when you actually look at it, you start to see it. Not just work, not just responsibilities, but every single thing. Decisions that haven't been made, conversations you've been avoiding, expectations that were never clarified, outcomes that were never yours to control. And it spreads across your life like a weed. Your function, work, performance, expectations, your family, emotional presence, leadership, provision, your fitness, the discipline, health, identity, your friendships, support, availability, loyalty. And underneath all of it, your sense of meaning, your sense of responsibility, your sense of who you're supposed to be, and what you believe you've been entrusted with. And here's the truth most men don't want to say out loud. You're not just carrying your life, you're carrying parts of other people's lives too. And you've stopped noticing the difference, their emotions, their reactions, their expectations, their outcomes. And at some point, your system starts to push back, because irritability is one of the first signs that you're carrying more than you're meant to. Just because you can influence it doesn't mean it's yours to carry. But high-functioning men blur that line all the time. They take ownership of things that were never theirs because they can, because they care, because they don't want things to fall apart. But there's a cost. And what is it? When you carry what isn't yours, you lose capacity for what is, and your system starts to feel it. That's why irritability shows up first at home with your wife, with your kids, with your loved ones. Not because they're the problem, but because it's the only place your system feels safe enough to leak without resistance. And that's the part that bothers you the most, because you and I both know that's not who you want to be. And it's not who you actually are. So you try harder, you tighten up, you become more controlled, more contained. But control without clarity just increases the pressure. So what actually changes this? Well, not more discipline, not more control, clarity. Specifically, clarity around what is actually yours to carry. Because when you reduce load, capacity returns. This is where the shift happens, not by dropping responsibility, but by refining it. You start asking different questions. Is this actually mine to solve? Is this mine to carry, or just mine to influence? Have I taken ownership, or have I taken over? And slowly, things start to separate. Not everything needs your energy. Not everything needs your involvement. Not everything needs your emotional weight. And as that happens, something unexpected shows up. Space, margin. Your system starts to settle. Your reactions start to slow down. Your presence starts to return. Not because life got easier, but because your load got clearer. And this is the part most men don't expect. When clarity increases, irritability decreases naturally. You don't have to force patience. You regain it, because patience isn't something you manufacture. It's something that shows up when you're not overloaded. So if you've been feeling more irritated lately, don't just look at your reactions. Look at what you're carrying, because your system might not be telling you be better. It might be saying something else. Carry less of what was never yours and keep what actually matters. If this hits something for you, don't just sit on it. Click the link below and book a free clarity call. We'll walk through exactly what you're carrying, what's actually yours, and what's been sitting on you that you were never meant to hold. No pressure, but if you're ready to lead your life with clarity instead of weight, that's where it starts.